But the Phoenix Suns released over the weekend breaking news out in the NFL landscape. Originally, we were just going to talk what the Arizona Cardinals thought process could be behind going after Terry McLaurin. It is the slow part of the NFL season. It is the off season. We are in the depths of it. There's no draft to look forward to. Not really a lot of OTAs to react about that happened last week. So you're talking about hypothetical deals, things that can move the needle this far into the NFL season. So although, quick thought, I think it's 85% chance the Cardinals get neither of these guys. But I can't say it's impossible. So let's start off with one and go gradually to the other one that I think is more likely than this one. Terry McLaurin is allegedly upset with this contract. And once I saw Cardinals on SI, my guy Donnie Drew and his staff over there talk about it, it was the first time I was like, okay, this is a real thing. There is a thought process, not a source, not anything crazy, that the Cardinals could kick the tires on potentially trading for Terry McLaurin. And here's why I wouldn't do it. First, I would say the Commanders are crazy town people. Similar to Devin Booker, who we just talked about a second ago, and about loyalty, Terry McLaurin has been a really good soldier. He hasn't missed a game in 4 seasons, if I'm not mistaken. He's been electric, even with awful quarterback play. And the second it's his turn to get paid, because his contract doesn't have any guarantee, has little or no guaranteed money left on it, you hesitate at the fact to pay him? If I would have thought this were something that could be true. I would have thought this was Dan Snyder. Like, this is Washington Redskins, Washington Commanders of old. Take care of your guy. He finally gets the quarterback he so well deserves, and you scoff at the fact that you might have to pay him $31 million a year, $32 million a year. Listen, Brandon Ayuk is getting $30 million a year. Terry McLaurin, you can make an argument, should be making $35. And I totally get, if you're already paying the quarterback, that you're like, no, I can't pay my quarterback and wide receiver $80 million a year minimum combined. That is too much of the salary cap. It's what I think makes the Bengals so stupid. I get paying Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. Those guys, you can argue, are both top 3 at their position. Jaden Daniels, who knows? May or may not still be awesome. I'm assuming he will be. I'm just playing devil's advocate. But he's not making any money. He's on a rookie deal. And the Commanders are scoffing at the fact of paying for Terry McLaurin. Now, unlike Jaire Alexander, Terry McLaurin does seem like a Monty Fort guy. It would make sense for the Cardinals to kick the tires on him. Trade a first or second round pick for him. But here's why I'm against it. I don't want to trade a premium pick for a wide receiver, especially one in Terry McLaurin, who isn't young anymore. He's 29 years old, if I'm not mistaken, at this point in his career. But Terry McLaurin is a really good player. However, to what my guy in the chat had mentioned, Aaron, we're not going to throw to McLaurin. So what's the point in trading for him? The Cardinals continue to tell you what kind of team they are. Sorry, I wanted to go ahead and bring something up as well. But the Cardinals continue to tell you what kind of team they are. They're a run-first, smash-mouth football team. There's a reason why they haven't brought in a Gabe Davis, or they haven't brought in insert star-level player here, even towards the end of, or even towards last year, where I was mentioning as well. The Arizona Cardinals, a couple weeks ago, the Arizona Cardinals should bring in Keenan Allen. And the Cardinals were like, no, we're good. And part of my point to that was, get a guy who's got sure hands, find the soft spots and zones, kind of help be a security blanket to Kyler, and make him your third wide receiver. He's still out there. I think that fit well here with the Arizona Cardinals. And everyone told me no because he's not a vertical threat, and the Cardinals need that. To the point where I say, well, guys, let's call it what it is. Marvin Harrison Jr. is supposed to be your vertical threat, and the Cardinals don't throw the ball downfield. So when you're talking about Terry McLaurin, I get that it does make sense to a point where high character guy has been through the thick and thin, could be grateful for having good quarterback play, and he hasn't missed a game in 4 seasons. That's a huge thing for Monty Ossenfort, and you have the money to pay him. The Cardinals have the least amount of dead money in the NFL at $7 million. Like, that is just crazy. That is absolutely absurd that the Cardinals only have $7 million in dead money. They could afford him and really not bat an eye. But I'd rather Cardinals go in for a position that is a little bit more of a premium. Trey Hendrickson, maybe a star corner. We'll get to that in just a second. Maybe fill in the holes at middle linebacker. Maybe you're really great towards the middle of the season, and you go and make a splash trade for a linebacker. It's going to cost a lot of money. I would or maybe a right tackle next season. What if someone big becomes available and the Cardinals need a right tackle? I'd rather have that. I really like Terry McLaurin. And if the Cardinals, let's say that they did trade for him, immediately, it'd be pretty hard not to be excited about Terry McLaurin. I'm still a fan as well at points. But you have to be mature. Terry McLaurin is Cardinals of old. Terry McLaurin at 31 is more Cardinals of old. But Terry McLaurin at 29 years old, who's going to need a massive new deal, a ton of guaranteed money, probably over the next 3 seasons. And the Cardinals do have other issues. I don't see that as being the mature way to go about your business. However, Jaire Alexander got released this morning. And I've been banging the table, like myself and a lot of other people in this space. I'm not here trying to act like I was the first to the Jaire Alexander boat. Pretty much every other YouTuber who covers an NFL team has said the same exact thing at least once. If they have a need at cornerback, go get Jaire Alexander. But now that Jaire Alexander is released, my first thought process is, because this is just who I am as a person, which maybe says a lot about me than it does about someone else. When something good happens, maybe it's just the way I was raised, maybe it was my turbulent childhood, maybe it was a bunch of different things. I thought to myself, Jaire Alexander, once a top 5 corner, probably still top 10 to 15 when he's available. Everyone in the NFL could have had him for, at this point, like a 7th round pick. The Packers would have just gotten rid of him for a 7th round pick at this point. But everyone said no. Why? I think this is what separates me from the regular fan. Whereas a lot of fans out there, they see a really good player, they want to bring him here. No shade towards that at all. That is what a fan is for. My job is to dissect it. And you say to yourself, well, why did Jaire Alexander get cut? I just don't get it. To the point where, personally, I really don't get it. Everyone in the NFL could have had Jaire Alexander. Every one of them said no. Jaire Alexander, I believe, is 28 years old still. Not exactly over the hill. And yeah, he's 28 years old. When he was back playing, was still a pretty good cornerback. But here's the thing that concerns you about Jaire Alexander. And, you know, I see my guy in the chat, Aaron, saying they released him because he wanted to go pick his own team. If that's the case, that's just stupid. I don't believe that. Because if you can get even a 6th round pick for Jaire Alexander, you do it. This is the NFL. He's 28. He's no longer a top 4, top 5 corner in the NFL. You don't owe that to him. You've given him a lot of money over the years. That's on him. But here's what the concerning part comes in for Jaire Alexander. And what leads me to believe he's not a Monty Fort guy, and the Arizona Cardinals won't even kick the tires on him. Jaire Alexander, what do we know about the Arizona Cardinals? They want high character guys, and they want guys that show up and play games. They do not want players that either A, are not necessarily not a high character guy, but not necessarily a low character guy either. They want someone who's going to come in and just help them win and never have to worry about them stirring up any trouble. Look at Budda Baker. Look at Mac Wilson. Look at Calais Campbell. These are all guys, Garrett Williams, high character guys who don't stir up trouble in the locker room ever, and not saying Jaire Alexander would, but why would you break up the chemistry of that? And as much as I love the idea, as my guy Ivan in the chat is pointing out, Garrett Williams, I guess Ivan's not saying this, but this is what a lot of people are pointing out. Garrett Williams, Budda Baker, Jalen Thompson, Starling Thomas, Will Johnson, Max Melton. You start to say to yourself, well, one, do you need him? And two, do you want to bring someone in that could potentially stir up the chemistry of that room? Jaire Alexander is a big personality. He likes to announce his presence. He's got the stereotypical Deion Sanders cornerback personality, where it's where I give cornerbacks a lot of leeway with this, because it is so hard to be a corner in the NFL. He's got all this distilled confidence in him. I wonder if that would come in and rub the other cornerbacks the wrong way, and you don't want to deal with that. But still, even if Jaire Alexander is potentially not the highest of character guys that the Arizona Cardinals always go after, and even if he's missed 34 of his last 68 games, that's half of the games that Jaire Alexander could have played in and didn't. Every team wanted him and said no. Even with all those issues, if I was the Arizona Cardinals, I would still go after Jaire Alexander. Because at this point, you have FU money. You have so much money. It's ridiculous. I don't know what you're saving it for. And I mentioned this earlier. The Cardinals only have $7 million in dead money. $31 million still. Effective cap space, again, at $31 million. And only $7 million in dead cap space. I think this is a risk that the Arizona Cardinals have to take. It is a low risk, high reward. If Jaire Alexander is awesome and he's only 28 years old, you add him to a Cardinals defense that could absolutely use another star. They'd probably be fine as they are, but if there's one thing you want depth at outside of other positions, you definitely want it at the cornerback position. Because the Arizona Cardinals have Max Melton, Will Johnson, Garrett Williams, Starling Thomas. They've got dudes over there. If you could be able to run nickel sets with Jaire or Garrett Williams or, Max Melton as well as Will Johnson, I think that that's something that's very enticing. And Will Johnson, who seems like a very confident guy, who better to be mentored under than Jaire Alexander? So if I'm the Arizona Cardinals, I know it comes with a little bit of risk. You could sign this guy, and he could miss the whole season like he's been missing over the past couple of seasons. 34 out of a possible 68 games he played in. And it is very telling that every team in the NFL could have had him for a 7th round pick or a 6th round pick, and they all said, we're good. And even if he doesn't follow the Monty Fort Arizona Cardinals way of plays in every game and is of extremely high character, again, that's not saying he's a bad character. It's just saying he's not of extremely, extremely high character like Calais Campbell or Budda Baker. I think this is something that you should at least take a shot on. I think it is worth it. Now, if he becomes a bidding match and he just goes to the highest bidder, no, I'm not that crazy. But a 1-year, $15 million deal that goes away off the books at the end of the season, 1 year, $18 million, 1 year, $15 to $18 million, and maybe that's too high. Maybe that's too low. I don't know. That's worth it to me. To go get someone who's 28 years old and could still be awesome. And if it doesn't work out, no big deal. You move off him at the end of the year. There's no dead money. You get that money back to be able to use for someone else next season. That makes it worth it to me. Because it is so low risk and a high reward, I would go do it. I would bring Jaire Alexander to the Cardinals. And that leads me to this. Will Monty Fort do it? I don't even think he's going to kick the tires on it. I don't think so. Monty Fort he has a formula and he's sticking to it. And to his credit, he's built a pretty damn good roster doing it. But this is one of those risky moves that I don't think Cardinals general manager Monty Fort would do. It just doesn't seem like him. But if you're the Arizona Cardinals, man, that is a very enticing player to potentially bring into the fold. And I'm all for it. Either one, really. But which one makes way more sense? Jaire Alexander. And I don't see any world where Terry McLaurin would come to Arizona. It's fun to talk about. It's a dead part of the season, but it just doesn't make a ton of sense.